Because people really, really do want to be confirmed that they have a condition that's causing them to be them, especially in areas of life where they're not happy about their behaviors. We humans, we often, I don't know about you, but I make a lot of mistakes. I make a handful I mean, it's only like 8 in the morning. I've already made like a handful of mistakes this morning. It's like it's already happened. And if I can write those mistakes off to a condition, or to you, like if you want to take responsibility for my mistakes this morning, I'm happy to give that to you. I'm not eager to hold on to my mistakes. And by
Mhm.
mistakes, I mean I say things I didn't wish I said, or I do things I or don't not do things I wish I would have done or not done, or I inadvertently hurt somebody, or maybe even intentionally hurt somebody, and I think, oh, that's not good, and I don't really want responsibility for that. So maybe there's something wrong with me. I didn't meet my deadline. I'm awkward in social situations. I'm I'm mean to my spouse. I yell at my kids. I'm tired. I'm and nervous. I'm afraid. Like all those things, you're allowed to be tired, nervous, and afraid.
You often speak about helping people be real and heard. What does this mean to you, and why is it so important in mental health care?
What I learned, I was really looking for, what does it mean to be human? What's the universal aspect of human? What is it that no matter where I am, if I'm in Thailand or if I'm in Nepal, if I'm in Bhutan or Israel, France, England, Italy, what is a human after all? What do they really want? And I'm back to that same thing, the thing I learned when I was a child, and the thing I learned certainly at Fairlawn Center, and then have learned over and over again every single day, whether or not I'm in the role of psychiatry, is that what people want more than anything is to be heard, to be seen and heard for who they are and who they're not, connected to, harmonic resonate, like actually being seen and gotten. And when people are gotten, there's a new sense of sort of like a resonating freedom, a general peace of mind, an affirmation and confirmation that they're human and that they can be seen, and maybe just maybe that there's nothing wrong with them. That people really, it's a really cool thing that when you connect with somebody, and I've had the opportunity, like in jails and prisons, to be the first person to connect with somebody in years or maybe in their whole life. And when that connection happens, there's like boom, it's just like, wow, that person and me just felt what it's like to really be at the essence of humanity. Like if you can really see that there's an opportunity to empathize or relate to, or in some words, some people use the word recreate somebody. When you can actually get that there's a person over there, and you're instead of running through the filter of a deprecating label, if you can really get, oh yeah, that's a person, that's a divine soul, that's somebody there who's going through life, bumbling and tumbling and stumbling, just like me. Because all the people who pretend not to be bumbling, stumbling, and tumbling, they are bumbling, stumbling, and tumbling into pretending that they're not. It's not like we have a recipe book of how to handle this junk. This is rough out here, man. This is rough. We're living in a rough time. But even when it wasn't rough, even when it was less rough, it's always been rough, by the way. If you read Socrates, if you go back and you read some of the early sages, they're talking about how rough it was. And it was rough. It's always been rough. It's just got a little different and maybe a little more rough. It's hard to tell. But to have difficulty with the challenges of life, that has been pervasive and ubiquitous since the beginning of time, since the beginning of humanity. So let's just face it, nobody knows what the hell they're doing. Let's really get that. Not inherently, but what happens is we start doing what other people are doing. Find a group that's into doing a certain thing, a certain set of things. Maybe it's in the world of work, maybe it's in the world of socialization, maybe it's in the world of relationships. They have certain patterns. And then we're capable of mimicking those patterns. So if we're handling our spouse the same way that our neighbors are handling our spouse, and they're thought of as being good spouses, then we'll be good spouses too. We like learn by copying. But it isn't like we know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing. We're not like essentially built to know what we're doing. I think it was Krishnamurti said, there's no sign of mental health to be well adjusted to a sick society. It's like very, very true. Oh, like, this who died and made you boss thing. It's like, what? You're walking around acting like you really get this? and that you think the standard should be that we all should really get this, there's nothing to get. The world is unfolding in so many unpredictable fashions, both externally and even close locally, internationally and nationally, and then internally. The world is unfolding as it is, and none of us are actually managing it because we know how to do it or because it's part of our DNA or genetics. We're generally managing it with something called an agreement reality, where all we're really doing is sort of copying the group that is getting credit for managing it well. And then if we do that, then we get to be in that in group that looks like it's managing it well. And that's all we really do as humans in the end.
Right. And so, for your approach, what is the undoctor philosophy, and when do you think it's the right time for someone to apply it?
Yeah, I think the undoctor is, it's an affectionate moniker I got from a buddy a few years ago after hearing me speak. I really appreciate it. And the undoctor is really realizing that the medicines are not the problem. And the medicines are, so some people think the undoctor would be realizing that the medicines are the problem. Not at all. That medicines are just inert substances, right? You can't be blaming medicines for anything. A medicine, they didn't say or do anything. They didn't do anything. They're just there. So I start really looking at, well, when I first learned in 2006, I began to take some of my clients off of medicine, and they got better, way better. I think I told you, and reliably better. And I was like, well, I got to scream this from the mountaintops. It appears that the medicines are making people worse, and so we got to tell some people, like, I need to scream this. I need to get violent about it. And violence doesn't always work. In fact, frankly, violence is a pretty poor approach if you're looking for effective communication. So I wanted to just shake people up, my doctor friends and clients. You don't need to take medicine. You don't need to prescribe medicine. You don't need to. You don't need to. And that didn't really work. But what the undoctor is a much more gentle approach, really looking at how things go and realizing, well, where is the entryway into this cycle, the spiraling cycle into perpetuating symptoms and staying lifelong patients? What is this story here? And it's more so about this idea of knowing that there's something wrong with you. When you're uncomfortable, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. When you're afraid, that does not mean there's anything wrong with you. When you're awkward in a social environment, that does not mean there's something wrong with you. When you're scattered with your workload, it does not mean there's something wrong with you. If you have trouble sleeping, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. If you're depressed about how things just went or about how the world is going, that does not mean there's something wrong with you. It just means that you're those things. But if you need confirmation that there's something wrong with you, they're feeling stuck and you think there's something wrong with you, well, then if you go to a barbershop enough times, which of course I did even yesterday, then you get a haircut, right? And if you go to a doctor enough time, you're going to get a diagnosis. In fact, you're definitely going to get a diagnosis the first time you go. Psychiatrists don't get paid if they don't give you a diagnosis. So the system is built to give you a diagnosis. And what the undoctor is undoctrinating people by, first of all, undiagnosing people. Maybe, just maybe, there's nothing wrong with you.
Hey guys, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our app, Yoga Plus. You will have access to an incredible selection of videos led by top instructors in yoga, fitness, nutrition, and so much more. Download our Yoga Plus app available on iOS and Android today.